Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, we are discussing the insurance sector today, and here to offer her insights on a number of issues is Indrani Sugathadasa, the chairperson of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka. Next up is Subhashini Abesinghe, Senior Economic Analyst of Verite Research, who talks about a recent report on export finance. And finally, we focus on the topic of nepotism in Sri Lanka with Mihirani Disanayaka, Country Manager of TNS Lanka. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. As we edge closer towards International Women's Day on the 8th of March, we at Benchmark thought we would showcase a couple of women who have said, yes, we can. Today we feature Indrani Sugathadasa, the chairperson of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka. And while we do discuss some issues facing women, we will also be discussing the insurance sector, the prevalent trends and emerging trends, as well as the split of composite insurers into life and non-life sectors. Indrani, welcome to Benchmark and good to have you on our show. Just to start off, what do you think of the insurance sector in Sri Lanka today?
Well, sector is developing. I'm happy about it, but we expect further development. During the last year, there was a growth, I think about 17%. If you take the life separately, life is about 20% and the general is about 17%. But I think the growth will increase further.
And are you seeing any challenges coming up?
In the insurance sector? Yes, I think we just introduced the RBC, risk-based capital model. And some companies maybe they find it as a challenge, but I think most of the companies are implementing RBC, risk-based capital model, very successfully. But that is a challenge because they have to have the capital according to the risk-based capital model. Otherwise, the penetration is the other challenge because the insurance penetration is quite low. In Asia, I think we are the lowest. We have to increase the penetration, and it's really a challenge for all the insurance companies as well as to the regulator.
Even just as a matter of interest, why is insurance penetration so low in Sri Lanka?
That's a question to all of us. I think the main reason is firstly the lack of awareness. Not actually the awareness, the lack of understanding of insurance as an important aspect in our lives. Some time ago, insurance, I'm talking about the ordinary people, insurance was not a very important, not in their priority list. I think the reasons were we have had free education and we have free somewhat free healthcare system, so people didn't need insurance. But now with this rising cost of healthcare and the education also, and I think the people they're looking for some sort of relief in case of sickness or in death in the family. And I think now they are realizing, but still we need to take the message to the masses. The other reason is most of the insurance companies, I would say very few companies have island-wide network. Mostly they have branches in the cities, not in the villages and not in the faraway places. They do have insurance agents, now they call them insurance advisors. But I think we still have to reach the masses. That is another reason. And the other thing is the cost. In a family who are trying to provide their basic needs, so the insurance doesn't come in their priority list at all.
A recent Fitch Ratings report said that with the split of the life and non-life sectors, there will obviously be a positive impact on the insurance industry, efficient capital allocation, corporate governance, and also better risk management. In your opinion, how is this split actually impacting the insurance industry?
It will definitely have a positive impact in the long run. We have just started it. I think out of 15, 9 or 10 have already started their operations separately as life and non-life. Earlier it was composite insurance companies. But I think you can see a very positive, we are very positive about it, good impact on in the long run, in the future. In their, especially the life companies can can have their life investments. It's people's money, and more in a more protective manner, without mixing it with with the general insurance. When it is a composite company, you can have you can mix with mix the funds, both funds.
There is a certain amount of risk as a result.
There is a risk. There is a risk, but I think it's mostly on computer protection and transparency also, and good governance, corporate governance.
Nowadays, geographic boundaries don't exist anymore. So, what are the trends that are prevalent in the insurance industry globally that may impact Sri Lanka's industry?
You must have heard about the IAIS, we call it, Insurance International Association of Insurance Supervisors. Sri Lanka is a member of that association. They have developed ICP's insurance core principles based on the international standards. So, we also try to follow, the members are following the international standards. Now they are talking about the group supervision. Sri Lanka is yet to have it, we have one or two, couple of international companies, but in time to come, it's very good, the group supervision. You supervise the whole group, not only the insurance company per se, but the subsidiaries and the whole groups. Then the financial transactions, the shopping and everything you can supervise and control. And also the insurance inclusion is another aspect that internationally lot of countries are paying attention to it. We are also trying to have the insurance inclusion, everybody, it's inclusive insurance, micro insurance, and everything will be then regulated. And the corporate governance, those are the internationally interested and the top priority areas.
So, we'll be returning to that discussion, Indrani. Time for a commercial break now. We've been talking with Indrani Sugathadasa, the chairperson of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka, and when we return, we will be speaking with her about women's issues, the increase of women's participation in the legislature, and also, as a final point, the outlook for Sri Lanka's insurance sector. Stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Welcome back to Benchmark. Today we are featuring Indrani Sugathadasa, Chairperson of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka. So Indrani, if we look at women and women in business in general, what do you think is the status of women?
That is my forte. You know, I was there for, I think throughout my career, and still, although I'm in the financial insurance and securities field, I still have a interest in women's, whenever it's about women's development or gender development, I used to read and I used to, you know, pay attention to it. Well, women in business, if you take very successful women in business today in Sri Lanka, they are mostly they have a family background, the business background, and they take the business from either from the father or the husband or a brother or somebody, or it's in the family. It's not very difficult for them to come get into the business and, you know, be very successful because they have the backing. I know of some other very successful business women who, after the husband died, they took over and they are doing it very well. But for some other people who do not have family background or enough resources, it's not easy to get into the business and be successful. But if you ask me whether they have equal access, well, yes, in financial, well, the banks, any bank would give a loan to. Now, those days there were some bottlenecks, but now the banks want to give loans, no? So they, even women who can have give collateral and other things, they can get financial assist funds. And in rural areas, other problems are there. You know, the women, the men are, you know, dominating the business enterprises, and it's not easy to a single woman. I mean, single means a new who wants to start a new venture, an ordinary person. It's not easy, although they have the willingness to come forward. But I think the situation is being improved now, because a lot of educated young women also, they had, I personally know of some young women, they had given up their paid employments, very educated, highly educated young women. They wanted to do something on their own. So that's a very good sign.
There's only 35.7% of females in the labour force, which is dismally low.
Yeah.
And also, however, women are known to be much more productive.
Yes, of course.
What does this kind of low percentage of women in the labour force do for Sri Lanka's productivity levels? It's
not the case of productivity. The women's, you said that the low participation is the attitudinal problem. The employers, other than the sectors like 100% women are there, like the garment sector or the health sector, if you take the nurses, and I think the doctors also, the females are coming up as doctors also, and the teachers. Other than that, the male employers mostly want to recruit men. If a woman and young boy and a girl go for an interview, I think the employer in the private sector also, they prefer, although they have equal qualifications and the skills and the experiences, they prefer the boy than the girl.
Last year, there was a proposal made to have a 25% women's representation in the local government and provincial council institutions. What are the pros and the cons of this proposal?
It's a very good move, and I congratulate the government for doing that, because no other government could do that. It's not a new thing actually, the idea or the proposal. It's coming from, it has a history of about 1 or 2 decades. I was in the Women's Ministry and I was in the Women's Bureau also. We tried several times. I think we have submitted proposals, and then there was, when I was a secretary, the then minister also submitted the proposal, and then a subcommittee was appointed to study that. That subcommittee, nobody knew what happened to that subcommittee, and then the proposal died as a natural death. And then again during the last, it was in the manifesto also that 25% nominations will be given to women, but then it didn't happen. I remember asking a very top level decision maker, it is in the political agenda also, but you have to give 25% nominations, this is very unfair. In Sinhala he said, dinanasyo thamai race ekata danna ඕනේ. So I think this is a very brave and very good move. I look at it very positively and I am very happy about it. The con I see is 25% quota is very good. I congratulate the government for doing that, but they will do it very properly. There must be a criteria of selecting women. Rather than, I remember once we had a women's caucus, including members of parliaments from all parties, political parties. Can you believe, other than the Mrs. Sumita Jayasen, who was a women's minister, and a Muslim minister, who was Mr. Ferial Ashraf, everyone else was against. They said, නෑ චන්ද ඉල්ලලා දෙන්න කියන්නේ, චන්ද ඉල්ලලා එන්න කියන්නේ. මේ වෙනම කොටස් දෙන්න බෑ. හැම පක්ෂකින්ම including the JVP. චන්ද ඉල්ලලා එන්න කියන්නේ, චන්ද ඉල්ලලා එන්න කියන්නේ. I remember one minister saying, නෑ 125ක් දැම්මොත් මම මගේ නංගිව දන්නවා, අම්මා දානවා, පුංචම්මා දානවා, මගේ වත්තේ වැඩ කරන කෙල්ලවත් දානවා. So it should not be like that. There must be a criteria. I'm sure the government will have that, but there must be a criteria of selecting women participants, to whom to be, the nomination should be given to whom. And there are women societies who have been trained to take up politics. I don't know whether they exist now, but and some women are willing to come up. You know, that comes naturally. Maybe from the families or somehow, or maybe they have their intention to do something for the country. So I think there must be a criteria rather than appointing people, nominating. But I think the government will do that. But that's a very great move, I would say, very good move.
So finally, just getting back to insurance, what is the outlook for Sri Lanka's insurance sector?
Well, as we discussed before, the insurance, the future outlook is very good. I think it will be in very good and good shape in future, and the growth will increase with all these development projects coming in, and foreign aided funded projects are coming in. So the general insurance will grow. And with the increased penetration, we are trying hard, and the insurance companies are also trying hard. With the increased penetration, also the life insurance sector also will grow. And I am very, I think it will be an inclusive insurance with the protection of the insurance policy holders and potential policy holders.
Thank you so much, Indrani, for being with us today. It's been extremely interesting.
You're welcome.
We've been chatting with Indrani Sugathadasa, the chairperson of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka, on the insurance sector as well as women's issues, given that International Women's Day falls on the 8th of March. On the other side, we have Anushan Sevaraja. Stay with us.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC. Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world, the future's got a whole new world for you.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Hello and welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Verity Research recently launched an in-depth report on export finance. So we invited Subhashini Abesingha, the head of economic research for Verity Research, into our studios to find out more. Welcome, Subhashini. Now, the export sector in general has fared pretty poorly right now with negative growth. Now, and the government has set tall targets. What is the current status of the export sector in Sri Lanka, in your words?
Yeah, basically export sector I think has 2 main problems that has been highlighted over and over again for a long time. That is heavy concentration on few products and few markets, and the worst is that these few products we are heavily dependent on are highly labor intensive industries where Sri Lanka is fast losing its comparative advantage in terms of cost and availability of labor, tea and apparel, which account for over 50% of exports. So this is a significant challenge that has slowed down our growth, and we have failed to diversify into more high skill, high technology sectors, and also diversify away from major developed country markets like US and European Union into more fast growing emerging markets like China and India.
Moving on to this report on export finance, Subhashini, what is export finance exactly and what role can it play in promoting exports?
Export finance is largely understood in the context of trade finance. That is basically facilitating payment terms between the exporter and the buyer. So basically when you export, you come across risks because you are trading with an unknown party in a different country. So there is always what we call a payment default and delay risk. So as a result, you come into an agreement. How do you share this risk of the possible payment delay and default? And also from the importers, from the side of the importer, not being quite sure whether they will get the goods that they ordered in the specified time and with the right quality. So there is always this uncertainty in either party. On the exporter's side, whether the payments will be made, on the importer's side, whether the goods will be delivered. So that is why there is normally the banks intervene and try to create this trade finance mechanism where the bank guarantees the payment, and basically depending on how you agree to the payment terms, you can share the burden of the risk. But increasingly, buyers have more bargaining power than exporters in the international market, because you have few buyers, large scale, and generally exporters, especially from developing countries like ours, do not have that much bargaining power to determine payment terms and the price. So as a result, you give into more favorable payment terms to the buyer. And most recent development is trading on open accounts, which means that you don't go through a bank at all, and the buyer will only pay you after he received the goods. And sometimes they increasingly demand longer credit periods, which means that even after receiving the goods, the buyer may not pay. Sometimes they may delay the payment until they they actually sell the goods. So as a result, what happens? The exporter has to wait till the payment comes. If you are a large-scale exporter who has enough liquidity, you can manage these cash flow issues, that temporary cash flow problems you might encounter because of payment delays. But if you are a small and medium-sized exporter, it is a lot more difficult for you to actually face these cash flow problems that occur because of payment delays. And this is where one of the export finance instruments become critical, that is export working capital requirements. So this is short-term capital that the exporters need to process export orders. Right now, when the SMEs go to the banking sector, it is not easy for them to get the financing they need to meet the short-term working capital requirements. And then when they get the finance, generally they have to pay a higher cost. So one of the ways that you actually help the exporters to face this short-term liquidity problem is by assisting, by having schemes to make sure that the exporters have access to export working capital requirements at an affordable rate. And another way that export finance can help, so this is basically facilitating transactions is a very basic function of export finance, but you can go beyond that. You can, export finance means financing exports, right? So it can also be extended to have schemes to help SMEs, especially SMEs, because they are the people who find it most difficult to access finance, to basically build their skills, acquire technology, machinery, and improve, basically acquire standards for their products so that they can meet buyer requirements. So there can be various ways basically to finance exports. But at the moment, we really do not have financing schemes that are targeting export sector, especially SME exporters, whereas this is widely available in most other countries, even in countries like the United States of America, where you feel markets do everything and the governments do not intervene. But there is a organization called Small Business Administration of the United States that specifically help the small and medium industries to succeed in international markets. They provide guidance, they provide training, they provide market information, and they provide financing.
The government in its budget recommended the setting up of an Exim Bank. Now, some feel the government should not get involved in banking and that the private sector should do it. Now, others are also not convinced that this is a priority for Sri Lanka. What is your opinion?
Yeah, so basically one problem with the government in Sri Lanka setting up an export finance bank is there is a huge trust deficit of anything that the government ventures into in the current context, because the way the government has been managing government institutes has not actually given confidence to the public, saying that they will be able to do this job. So it's actually a problem of credibility and confidence. So also another problem is the competency. People feel, does the government have the competency, and what will be the political interventions in terms of appointments, in terms of distribution of finance. This is a problem. So as a result, unfortunately, even good initiatives like this are resisted and people are skeptical about it. Whereas all around the world, most other countries have Exim banks or specialized agencies to support the export sector and finance the export sector, and largely these are managed by the government or in partnership with the government. It doesn't have to be solely government owned. It can be a public-private partnership as well. Why do governments get involved? Because the bottom line is there are market failures. Governments intervene to address market failures. One critical market failure when it comes to international trading is information. You need good information about markets and buyers for you to assess your risks. And individual commercial banks trying to find this information can be costly. It can be very time consuming and they will have less interest in it. Another factor is when you lend to SME categories, even things like agriculture, it's known because of the risk perception. Even if you know exporters' credentials are good, without collateral, banks are reluctant to lend. And most of the SME exporters do not have collateral. This is where governments intervene by providing government guarantees to encourage sectors to basically lend to SMEs where they feel have the credibility to do well. So there are risks that basically the private sector is unwilling to take, or sometimes it's unfair for to expect the private sector to take. This is where part of this risk is borne by the government, because spillover benefits to the entire economy is far wider than the benefits to an individual.
Thank you very much for joining us, Subhashini.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
That was the head of economic research for Veritas Research, Subhashini Abesing. After a short commercial break, we will be back with the latest on the LMD TNS survey. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
We can show you a world, shining, shimmering, splendid, amazing, beautiful, dazzling, wondrous space for you and me. A whole new world, the future's got a whole new world for you.
The most advanced technology now on multiple smart devices for total convenience. Welcome to H&B New World Banking.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Anushun Selvaraja. Now we're going to take a closer look at the latest on the LME TNS survey. Joining me is the country manager of TNS Sri Lanka, Mihirani Disanayaka. Welcome back to the show, Mihirani. Now just to begin with, give us a brief overview of this time's survey.
February month opinion survey's topic was about nepotism in Sri Lanka and how the nepotism is ingrained to the culture of the country, the people's opinion about it.
So where do respondents stand on the subject of nepotism in Sri Lanka?
Majority, like 80%, believe that it is part and parcel of the country and ingrained to the culture of the country. This is mainly coming from political background where politicians want to remain their power, so they have this partiality in their decision making. Interestingly, another 14% believe that nepotism is not something there in the culture of the country.
Was the previous regime riddled with nepotism according to the survey?
As per the survey findings, 9 out of 10 people believe that nepotism was, was practiced by the previous government. The main factor being the people who got jobs during the previous government having, relationships with the government, and hence they saw this partiality in the previous government.
Is nepotism still prevalent in the country, Mihirani?
Now, we heard in the earlier question, 9 out of 10 people believe that it was there in the previous government. Now, today, people believe that, less people believe that the nepotism is prevalent today. 6 out of 10 people still believe that its partiality exists in Sri Lanka even today. Another 2 out of 10 people believe that nepotism is something that we can't find today. People who tend to believe that these partialities exist, they believe this is coming from the fact that the current government has given appointments for non-elected members in the parliament, being the main factor for them to believe that partiality exists in Sri Lanka still.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mihirani.
Thank you, Anusha.
That was the country manager of TNS Sri Lanka, Indrani Sugathadasa. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.